suffered abuse can often not be in a position to take good decisions, i.e. their judgment may be impaired because of the trauma that they have suffered. So it's not enough to say, well, a rape survivor said, oh yeah, you can take my name, so I printed or her name, or showed her photograph, or a child abuse victim, if he says, if the father says, yeah, go ahead and publicize it, you really need to exercise judgment. More important than the story is what impact it's likely to have on a victim or a survivor, And I think the litmus test in my reporting career always was, when covering such stories, that when you get a tip off on a story like this, when you've got all the essentials, that you ask, if it was the victim was not X, but it was my own sister or my own daughter or my own son, how would I cover the story? And I think that is always a very sobering thought. The one thing that we should not do in our over-eagerness is name the victim, identify them, unless there's some need, unless their life's under threat, and identifying them may help save their life. And that's a judgment call that again should be made at an editorial level, at a senior editorial level. I think naming names of survivors is awful without their explicit consent, and even then it should serve a purpose, like I've said. And the other major no-no is that don't be the judge, jury, and the hangman if a perpetrator of the crime has been identified. A traumatized victim who's suffered abuse, unless it's a long period of abuse, in a house, a family member or something, quite often the survivors are so traumatized they may not be able to identify the victim. And if they've expressed suspicion, and if you name the perpetrator, and if you point fingers at them, and if you moralize to them without really a judge and jury having convicted them, you know what you run the risk of doing. What if there's a 2% chance that they are innocent? In which case, it won't be a legal process which is supposed to cater to these things. It's just your eagerness as a reporter that completely tarnishes them, their reputation, and perhaps may even drive them to suicide. There have been instances around the world where people falsely accused of heinous crimes have committed suicide because they felt so desperate.